DDG episode 155. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
Dave, it's the week of Thanksgiving for us in the U.S. So the video game industry worldwide went to sleep this week, but we will continue. We will do a Thanksgiving week show for everybody.
It's a very different week for you for your first time in like 10 or 15 years, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to be working. I'm still probably going to wake up Friday pissed the fuck off, thinking I have to go deal with Black Friday shenanigans.
Like your alarm is inadvertently set for 4 a.m. just automatically, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, or like halfway through Thanksgiving dinner, I'm going to be like, all right,
I gotta go.
Yeah, gotta go get yelled at by...
No, I can't take that shot.
Yeah, just, oh, God. PTSD. Dave's still in it, though. But it's not as... the last, 2-3 years has not been too bad Black Friday-wise. Black Friday, Dave, you don't have to deal with Black Friday bullshit really as much anymore, right? Like, it's a little bit better?
Yeah, it's more like it's not a day or a weekend anymore. It's like a 10-day window. Like, we started stuff at work like a week ago now.
Yeah, so you at least, spread it out just a little bit, so it's not as bad. Because, I don't know about you, but, we would have those instances where no one would shop in the store 2 weeks before Black Friday, and it would be really bad, and then you'll just get people coming in being like, what are the deals going to be like on Black Friday? Now you kind of just have people coming in every single day, which as a manager is probably nice. As someone who wasn't a manager, I fucking hated it, but you at least get some consistency coming in.
All right, so we are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly show that posts every Thursday at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services on your devices, whether you listen on a computer, a phone, a tablet, whatever you use to listen. We should be there. If not, let us know, and we can make that adjustment if possible. While you're there, checking to see if we are there, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, as well as leaving a review. That helps a lot. Sharing the show, whether it's on Facebook through the share buttons or on Twitter as whatever volatile format that is right now. Retweeting helps with that. We are exploring some other social networks if necessary. But we also have some other stuff linked in the show notes, like YouTube and Discord. So you can kind of check that out. And if you're moving away from Twitter for whatever reason, there's multiple ways that you can stay in contact with us and with the community, and that's all linked in the show notes. But sharing the show is free, and it is a great way to get us additional exposure. So that helps tremendously. We also stream on Twitch, so twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming. Primarily right now it's just the show. It's the weekly show. But hopefully I can, I've got a new PC, and I'm still trying to go through a little bit of a holiday season, and some personal transitions as well as we're going through some of this stuff. So hopefully around the beginning of the year I'll start streaming on a more regular basis, maybe try to set myself a schedule, which I say every year and I don't do, but I really want to. So like I said, check everything out in the show notes, and you can join the community, interact with us, hang out with us, however that needs to be. All right, we're going to throw it over to some brief news to Michael.
Hold on, Dave, 1 second. Are you cutting out a little bit for anyone else? Or is that just on me?
I don't know. Cordy just said I sound lower than Michael, so I'm turning myself up.
Okay.
So.
Man, weird.
Check.
That might be too high.
Yeah, I know. So. Testing. Test, check. All right, so it's literally almost barely hitting -20.
Okay. So we should be good. Yeah, that's probably why you were cutting out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the first news story is, I guess it's kind of a bummer, but Volition is now going to become part of Gearbox. So Embracer Group CEO Lars Weinfors basically announced that Gearbox is now going to fold into, or not Gearbox, Volition is now going to fold into Gearbox due to the poor reception that Saints Row received. Saints Row apparently did do as well as they thought it was going to do, but they, I guess, were expecting something more. It hit the very baseline that they were expecting it to hit, but didn't go beyond that. and also due to the poor critical reception, they just feel like it's better to move Volition under Gearbox. In a little bit scary thing that I think everyone is always scared about with all these acquisitions, they said this isn't going to be the first. They said this will not be the last internal transfer of studios that could happen. This is just the first one, and it will not be the last. So Volition, I guess they're not going away. They're just I don't know if they're going to get renamed to like Gearbox Champagne, but Volition sounds like it might not be a thing anymore. So opinions, Dave?
I feel like when they do stuff like this, it's more of like, hey, like we realize that this was a problem. Look at what we're doing. And it's more of like a surface, like a public relations surface change, and nothing is going to change for Volition other than, like you said, they're going to be called Gearbox Volition or Gearbox Champagne or something like that. Like who's ever in charge of the studio is probably going to stay the same. What they're doing, the team is just, and I don't know why people like. I feel like if you want to work for Volition, you want to work for Volition. If you want to work for Gearbox, you work for Gearbox. And then when you're doing the interview with Gearbox, you're like, hey, I want to work on this team. It would just be like years ago, like 10 years ago, I guess, when there was the Last of Us team and the Uncharted team at Naughty Dog, it was kind of referred to as like Team A and Team B. Mm-hmm. Like, and we always knew that. I mean, they both have come like. Team A and Team B at Naughty Dog have merged into essentially like just a team.
Yeah.
And they kind of bounce back and forth now, which could be the case with Volition and Gearbox, but it kind of became one of those things where it's like, okay, so it's the Last of Us team and it's the Uncharted team. And then, but we also had like, going farther back again, we had good Platinum team and bad Platinum team, or A team and B team for Platinum games. So it's like, I feel like changing the title isn't going to change, then isn't going to make the next Saints Row more or less successful.
Do you think there's a chance, like I'm going to the fact that like Saints Row just won't be a thing like anymore? That's more, yeah, but that would or wouldn't happen if this move did or didn't happen. Yeah, if anything, I think it just kind of cements it. Like it almost guarantees, right. Like, hey, Volition's gonna do Borderlands or whatever Gearbox has.
But we've been talking about this for a while. Like some of these IPs have just ran their course.
Yeah, and I think Saints Row was definitely like that humor and everything had its run.
Yeah,
and it was in the 2000s and wasn't meant for 2022. And this is kind of what happens. I wonder if this will affect. So like Volition's like whole thing is like they're located in Champaign, which is University of Illinois. So a lot of the people that come out of that university immediately go work for Volition, and that's how they've been able to go through talent and consistently have like new, fresh talent. So I wonder if that's a reason Embracer acquired them more than being like, let's make Saints Row a thing. And they just felt like they were already working on Saints Row things before they were acquired.
Yeah.
And they're just like, yeah, let's just get this out, but let's get that talent of like, hey, here's a bunch of young developers looking for their first job, and we have a studio now that can take that talent in and then have them work on Gearbox stuff and potentially other Embracer stuff.
And that's like super interesting. Like you talk about, okay, you go to University of Illinois, you get a degree in game development or graphic design or whatever, art, any of that stuff. University of Illinois is a huge college. And then you go work for Volition. And, I'm starting to wonder, like we've talked about just recently with the IPs running their course, like Saints Row may have came out before some of these kids these college grads were born.
Yeah, like there's a chance that like some of them are like, yeah, I grew up playing that game when I was like 5 or something, and they're jumping in now. Yes, 5-year-olds play games like Saints Row. So like I wouldn't be surprised if you do have people that's like, yeah, I've never played a Saints Row game, but I want to get in a game development studio, and I don't have to move out of my college town to do so. Right. So you can keep people in there, and I think that's why Volition stayed as relevant as they have. It's just, like you said, the franchises they were working with kind of ran their course. Like, I don't see them coming out with like a Red Faction Guerrilla game, because that was the other franchise they had, but that was also a franchise that kind of ran its course during like the 360 PS3 era. Or, God, if it made it that far. Might have been a more PS2 era.
I mean, I hate to say this because it's not a dig on Volition at the time, but as we've started to talk about the term like 4A games, like quad A games versus AAA games. Like I almost feel like Volition is kind of just turning into a double A game studio.
Which
like and that's fine. We need that. Like you need double A games, you need AAA games, and now you need these whatever. Like if you want to consider God of War Ragnarok like a 4A game, then like that's fine. And the different courses. I don't think that. I mean, if they become Gearbox Volition, like I said, they're still Volition. Or if they, to your point, if they become Gearbox Champagne, like internally, they'll probably still be called the Volition team.
Yeah, and again, like because their whole thing was built on like let's just get like students into the studio to like start their careers. I don't necessarily think Volition may have even had like almost like a culture. If you're like bringing in new talent so consistently, I'm sure there's definitely a culture at Volition, but it's definitely one of those things where if you're going to transfer a studio to become an auxiliary studio, they're probably the studio to do that with. They're the ones that it would be easier to do that.
And I don't know enough about Gearbox's track record, but like if this was EA, they'd probably just close them.
Yeah, and Embracer sees value in keeping them open, even if it's potentially under a new name. And there's a chance that they're just going to be Volition. They're just going to keep the name just because like it's associated with that city, that college town. That they're just like, yeah, we'll just keep calling ourselves Volition, just to keep that going. And then they'll just take whatever Gearbox throws at them on top of it, even if they don't get their name on the box. They'll still be Volition. But Dave, let's talk about our favorite fucking thing. Our favorite thing, which is the drama over Activision Blizzard. Because it's been getting really, really interesting the last like 2-3 weeks. I feel like we talk about it every other week for the most part. Like not consistently every week.
That sounds about right.
But let's dive into some of this drama that's been going on. Okay. All right. Where to start? So, Microsoft was talking with the New York Times. I got to see who exactly they were talking with, like which representative of Microsoft. It might have been Phil Spencer. But Microsoft basically told the New York Times that they, on November 11th, offered Sony a 10-year commitment to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. And this was met with no comments. Not an outright decline, but I guess Sony just didn't want to comment on this situation, nor did they agree to any agreements. Okay, so we got that. This is basically roughly like a 7-year extension over what they previously have, because Jim Ryan in previous interviews said that they were offered like a 3-year deal, I believe. Mm-hmm. And he thought of that as an insult. So now it looks like Phil Spencer and Microsoft have upped that to 10 years, but apparently that's not good enough. So Jim Ryan, in a previous statement, said he wanted a contract that was in perpetuity. So he wanted a forever contract. Phil Spencer, talking with The Verge, said having a contract that said forever was quote unquote silly. Like, from a business standpoint, like he cannot bring a contract to Microsoft that said forever and then have them sign off on that. So this is all going on. So it sounds like deals are being thrown out there and deals are being rejected. Some thoughts on that, Dave, of just like the idea that a 10-year contract was rejected?
Well, the first part that's super interesting to me is that like essentially Phil Spencer is doing contract negotiations for a IP that he does not technically own yet.
Yeah. But because they're in the arbitration.
Like, that's fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it. I understand that. And I guess I don't know. Like, that also tells me that if Jim Ryan is having conversations with Phil Spencer or Xbox's teams, whether that's them or not, or Jim Ryan's teams at the same respect, that they are all aware that this deal is going through. Because if you're Sony and you're truly trying to block this deal or try to hope that this deal doesn't go through, which is neither here nor there, that's not up for debate, you don't have these contract negotiation conversations. Like, you don't. Mm-hmm. It's like, again, it's the sports reference. It's like talking to a player that's under current contract. Like, you can't do that, and you can't have them sign a contract until they're available.
Yeah.
So like that's really interesting to me. And then I think that, as much as people the transparency of Phil Spencer, as much as people, sometimes love it, sometimes hate it, versus the crybabiness of what it seems like from Jim Ryan, is that I think Spencer was trying to be as professional as he could be, for a while.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of like, okay, I've had enough. Like, this is enough. Like, he's, he always kind of portrays himself as very well put together, very mellow, and for the most part, pretty open.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that now, for him to say like silly and forever, for you to ask, like Sony wouldn't go to Marvel and be like, oh yeah, we want the Spider-Man contract forever.
Yeah, like the executive that would have to then bring that to the legal team or the people that sign off on that contract would laugh them out of like, you as an executive cannot say fucking forever because you as an executive have a shelf life yourself, which isn't usually that long. You don't say an executive for too long.
Right.
So the idea that Phil Spencer's at this point is willing to just outright say silly is like telling you something, that it's just like he's fed up. He's tired of this, because when he's doing interviews, when people ask him directly about the acquisition, he always has to be like, well, we don't own them yet. And now he's being back to this corner where it's like Sony's basically saying like, act like you own them now. So then we can call you out on acting like you own them now, and then add that to a case later. And at this point, it just feels like Jim Ryan is just like, he knows the deal's going to go through, but he's going to make it as difficult as possible for Phil Spencer to get that deal. Because like, what's the end game? Like, Microsoft's going to release Call of Duty on your platform. I added this bullet point that Jim Ryan also rejected the statement that Microsoft made in terms of the EU investigation, that Microsoft basically said the EU's being unfair and they're taking Sony's side without hearing everything. Jim Ryan basically rejected that, and then also specifically had a problem that Microsoft said that PlayStation was overstating how big of a deal the Call of Duty acquisition would be, or the Activision Blizzard acquisition could be, to the point where Phil Spencer came out and said like, hey, this deal isn't about Call of Duty, this is about Keen. Like, the Activision Blizzard's one thing, but the reason we're doing this move is for Keen, because we need to move into the mobile market. To where now Phil Spencer is like shitting on his own like franchise and acquisitions to be like, we really just want King.
I don't think he's doing that. Like, I think it's 50% King, 25% Activision, and 25% Blizzard. Yeah. Like, if you really break it down,
but the fact that he has to be like, this
the value asset,
mostly about Keen. Like, I forget the exact quote, but the fact that he's at the point where he has to break down why they're interested in this deal, as opposed to like the previous deals of just like, we're doing it because we want to. But now he has to be like, well, we're really doing this about Keen. This isn't really about Call of Duty, which is definitely true. But the fact that he has to like outright state that just kind of shows that like the patience is kind of wearing thin at this point over on the Xbox side, which is a brilliant move in terms of, for Jim Ryan, in terms of just like, I'm just going to piss them off because they're going to do this no matter what I do. Seems to be working. I just don't like that Ryan seems to be using what I call home court advantage, and he's leaning on Europe heavily. Yeah, well, because I think he also knows that like when it comes to when the U.S. looks at it again, Microsoft's going to lean heavily on their favoritism with the U.S. government to like clear that through. So Jim Ryan's playing the cards that he has, and it happens to be home court advantage.
The next shoe to drop that I'm waiting for on this, and I don't think he really does anything anymore, but I'm waiting for Bill Gates to say something.
Yeah, like, he's not associated anymore, but I'm waiting for the CEO of Microsoft to jump in, because he hasn't. The CEO, I forget his name.
Right. I think it's a she, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay. I think I might be thinking of Google CEO. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think the head of like Microsoft Gaming is a male, but I think the CEO of Microsoft Corporation currently is a female, which is neither here nor there. I just think it's a she. And like obviously that person had to sign off on this deal before it went through, and they're seeing the potential or the information that is accessible to them.
No,
it's going to get to the point where like they're going to frustrate that person.
Well, because like this is sort of a deal where like the Microsoft CEO probably wasn't expecting to have to jump in on, and they're probably going to have to start calling in like the big guns in terms of like, all right, let's get like the
okay, let's get the Microsoft lawyers instead of the Xbox lawyers now.
Yeah, like it's time to get the Infinity Gauntlet together, and like let's get our Microsoft lobbyists, let's get the lawyers and everyone involved. Just to push this deal through. But it is getting kind of ugly. Like, I know it doesn't seem like it in terms of like from people not paying heavy attention to it.
I'm seeing headlines about possibly people suing Microsoft over this. Like, I don't remember who's, but it's weird. And like, I get it. Like, but I don't blame Microsoft for this. Like Activision was vulnerable. Activision Blizzard at the time when the purchase went through was very, very vulnerable. The board was very worried about what was going on. Like, and to be honest with you, like, you're not hearing much more about the hostile environment at Activision since this merger happened, or since this purchase has been happening. Like, I don't know if they're actively doing anything about it, or that anybody that's working for that company right now is like, well, we got to fly straight right now because we got to do whatever we can to keep my job when this goes through.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on. Like, you know, like, and the only thing that I'm saying from a positive standpoint is that the last 6 months or so, we're not hearing about some of the ridiculous and absurd things that we were hearing about that was going on a year ago, 18 months ago, 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, because they also have to like keep the stock price up currently because like,
right.
Like I think the deal was the Microsoft would buy the shares $95 a share. Right now they're at like $75, but like they don't want that share price to drop or anything. Like you got to keep it kind of high because shit can go wrong. Like this deal could. Yeah. I don't think the deal will fail, but like the deal could. It's not a 0% chance that it will like fail. So like if you're on Activision Blizzard side, you have to be on your best behavior because worst case scenario is the deal doesn't go through and you still have to run this company. So and the stock price would sink horribly if the deal didn't go through. So you got to keep it as high as you possibly can because you will tank pretty rough after it. But yeah, the deal is just they're just getting petty because now they're just basically fighting in various websites and newspapers, and we haven't even gotten to like the actual arbitration yet. Like the investigation.
It's Wall Street Journal reports this, Forbes reports this, Verge reports this,
and these are direct interviews.
GQ.
These aren't even like sources close thing. This is like literally Phil Spencer having an interview, Jim Ryan having an interview. It's a whole thing.
Like we talked about. Like, okay, when does the Microsoft CEO go, okay, shut up, like stop?
Yeah.
You know, and same thing. When does the head of Sony, not the head of PlayStation, the head of Sony go, okay, this is enough, like stop it?
Well, because at a certain point, like right now, PlayStation can kind of do this for free. In terms of like they don't actually have to prove anything right or wrong too much, but eventually if they keep pushing they're going to have to get like a legal team involved, and then eventually you kind of have to start hiring people to fight this, and then that's when Sony would have to be like, we're not going to spend money to fight this battle that we're going to lose.
Well, because here's the deal, like the other bigger corporations like Nintendo, I don't know if you consider Ubisoft in there, or Tencent, they're not saying anything.
They actually said they're cool with it. Like they were, in different instances, asked if this would be a big deal by some of the governments that approved the deal, and they're like, "Nah, it's not going to really affect."
Well, because I think Nintendo's like, okay, if you make something that A runs on that could even run on our hardware, and B, if it's something that we think that we want, which is not a lot of Activision Blizzard titles that of what Nintendo wants on its platform. I mean, maybe. I mean, I know as their platforms got a little bit more, you know, adult game, like maybe they want a Diablo or something. They'll just individually negotiate with either Activision or Microsoft whenever that time comes.
Yeah, because they have
hey, we want
a partnership already with the multiple things that they've worked on together. So yeah, it's at a certain point, PlayStation will probably give up on this because they know it's going to happen and it's going to start being a waste of their resources to keep fighting this. But I wonder when that leash is going to get pulled in terms of like, all right, guys, like let's stop fucking with them. Let's go do our own thing. Because at a certain point, like, if this keeps going on, Microsoft could just be like, fuck you, no deal. Like, we're going to push this through, and then we're going to take Call of Duty away. They won't do that because they need the money, but,
right.
you know, Jim Ryan can't go back and be like, can I get that 10-year deal? They're going to be like, we're going to sign a deal every year.
Well,
like,
and also, like, yeah, that, or he's like, yeah, you have a 10-year deal for Call of Duty, but now we're doing, you know, something else. Like, we're not even going to call it Call of Duty. We're doing Modern Warfare 3. And it's not called Call of Duty, and he's gonna mess with you that way.
Yeah, and they could do that, and if they want to be petty, like especially if you want to talk about a company that could eat money, it's Microsoft. Like if they
right,
obviously they wouldn't want to make Call of Duty exclusive. They would lose a lot of potential money. But at the same time, if any company can eat that loss, it'd be Microsoft.
Well, the guinea pig is gonna be whatever happens with FIFA. Like, so, or what next year? Like,
for EA?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in terms of what, you know, like how much weight does the name Call of Duty carry versus the name FIFA, as an example. And if next year's soccer game comes out, football game comes out, which I think it will, without the FIFA name on it, and they don't see a decrease in sales, you know, like, okay, so, like, it doesn't matter what it's called. You know, like, if, you know, a military shooter comes from Treyarch, you know, it might take a week or two for people to be like, hey man, there's no Call of Duty this year. No, but there's this, and I'm using a stupid broad example, I know EA owns this one, but no, there's this Medal of Honor game that's essentially Call of Duty now. It's just not called Call of Duty anymore.
They just released a game called Shooty Dudes, and you're just like, oh dude, you gotta play this. I mean, it's totally possible that they could just off spin things off.
I don't think that would happen in the next 3 or 4 years, but
they might,
you know,
let those studios.
When a couple weeks ago, when Phil Spencer says, "Oh, Call of Duty will be on PlayStation as long as Call of Duty exists, or as long as PlayStation exists," I don't remember what he said. Yeah. Something to the extent of like, you know, as long as it exists.
Yeah, that was a statement I think like 2 weeks ago. Like, yeah, as long as PlayStation exists, which I feel is a jab. I'm just like, yeah, there could be a world where PlayStation doesn't exist, and it's just like, I doubt it, but like I see what he's saying. But yeah, there is also a chance, because of all the studios that Microsoft owns, that they could put one of the 10 Call of Duty studios onto a different project that isn't named Call of Duty. And then would PlayStation get upset of like, why is Infinity Ward making an exclusive game for your console? And they're like, doesn't matter, Treyarch put a Call of Duty out this year. This is an Infinity Ward game that's named something else.
Yeah.
Like, they could end up going down that path, because if you're Microsoft, you at a certain point have to look beyond Call of Duty in terms of like, we need to build more franchises that have sustainability in case Call of Duty ever fails, which I doubt it will, but you have to not fall into the trap that Activision did, where all they had was Call of Duty, and then now they had to sell themselves.
Yeah, the problem you run into, though, too, is like, I feel like it's nostalgic for nostalgic's sake, though. Like whether people thought Vanguard was good or bad, Cold War was good or bad, like, I think that, you know, Modern Warfare 2 is selling because it's called Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah, it's got the best of both worlds. It's a Call of Duty game and it's a Modern Warfare game.
Right. If they come out with a new Call of Duty next year that's arguably better and feels better than Modern Warfare, I think it'll sell less, because if it's, you know, Call of Duty America Strikes Back, I don't know. Like,
well, and I feel like Activision had experimented with dropping a Call of Duty name, because I want to say it was Modern Warfare 3, that it was just called Modern Warfare 3 up until the game like kind of released, and it was like, it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. But I'm pretty sure if you go back, that they were hyping one of the games up back in the day as like whatever the subtitle was first. Then, you know, it still said Call of Duty on a box, but they never referred to it as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. This is Modern Warfare 3. So I feel like they've done it before. It might have been a Black Ops game. I forget which set, but there's a possibility. Microsoft does have a lot of money that they can dick around with this stuff and not really get too much of a loss, which is why PlayStation is kind of is throwing a tantrum kind of too harsh, because it feels like it. I understand why they're doing it, though. They have a business to run. It's important to their business.
I think that ultimately they're just trying to, from a public relations standpoint, say, look, we did everything that we could.
Yeah.
Like, we tried and we did everything we could, and here's all the evidence of showing what we could do. Like, we have the players' interest in mind, even though they don't. They're saying that we did everything we could to have the player. Neither one of these companies had the players' interest in mind.
Will this lead to, like, Activision Blizzard gets acquired by Microsoft officially, and then Jim Ryan's on a battleship with a mission accomplished behind him on a banner, and is like, "We did it, boys," and it's just like, what? Microsoft still acquired Activision Blizzard, and he's like, Call of Duty's still coming to PlayStation. Like, at the end of this, is he doing, like, celebrations because he, like, is going to spin it as in, like, hey, we won, Call of Duty staying on PlayStation, even though that was already going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So
yeah, I just want to.
I'm getting to the point where I'm just tired of it at this. Like, we've been talking about this acquisition,
and it keeps getting more petty, which is like the funniest part. Which is the only, like, now I will only bring this up when it gets more and more petty. So it's a really high bar set from this week to see where it goes next. But that's all I got for the news.
Yeah, like I said, Thanksgiving week, so lighter news. Which of course means that as of now, nothing has been delayed, unless you want to consider the news this week that the NCAA football game is going to come in 2024, not 2023.
I didn't even
like I saw that.
Do you have to dig on the video game websites for NCAA news, or is that like a ESPN?
Well, no, it was an ESPN.
Okay,
thing,
yeah, because I was like, man, I did not see that at all.
But my wife even mentioned it. She's like, oh, look, they delayed it, and I'm like, well, did they delay it, or did they just say it's coming in 2024? Because I don't think they ever said it's coming in 2023. So, but anyway, I still don't understand that, because it's just a copy and paste of Madden with college stuff, but. Maybe they're waiting for some more of these conference realignment crap that's going on in real life. So, all right. So, what we're planning on watching. So, mine is very, very short. We recorded a day later last week, and obviously, like I just mentioned, some of our Black Friday stuff started. So, I had a little bit more of an unorthodox schedule at work, and some other stuff going on with, like, parent-teacher conferences, and some other stuff going on with Scouts with Owen. So, I really did not play much. I did get a little farther in God of War. I think Michael caught up to me. With where we're at, because again, I have to kind of play when Angela's available and wants to watch. But I've also been this week I've been tired, so I haven't really done much of that. Played a little bit more Call of Duty. There's somebody that's asking in the Discord and in the Facebook group about special weapons and things and drops, and I don't have a clue. Like, I
hit quick play and then I just play. Yeah. Like, I don't even do special loadouts. I probably disgust that person, because I literally just have the same
I do
loadout.
Level some of the weapons. Like, I glance at some of the objectives, and it'll be like get 5 kills with this type of gun. I'm like, okay, I'll mess around with another gun. I'll do something like that for the XP boost or whatever. But yeah, for the most part, I just kind of literally just want to run around, shoot things with my buddies.
Yeah, I play until I hear someone playing Eminem through the speaker, and then I just I'm gonna switch to something else.
Yeah. So, but I haven't really been playing a ton of that. I love the arc and the development that's going on in God of War with the the narrative and the amount of characters that you're meeting.
The opposite.
So, okay. It does. I don't know why. So I feel like God of War does a better job of talking to you while you're moving in comparison to Horizon, which you just had to stand there and do dialogue trees. Yes, there are long cutscenes in God of War.
Okay, you're talking about that, because I'm so annoyed by the side talking in God of War.
What do you consider side talking?
Anytime Atreus opens his goddamn mouth. Yes.
I like that they use some of the tunnels to have a conversation.
I don't mind those.
Like the tunnels and the corridors to have the conversation.
I just don't need the I don't know, the snarky jokes and stuff after a combat sequence. Okay. It seems like anytime you get into a little
this is Michael not having a child.
No, but it's Mimir too. Literally you battle some people, and then Mimir or Atreus have a little comment to say, and it's just I don't fucking let's keep going.
I like Mimir telling you, look out to your left, look out to your right, because you can't I feel like I don't know if the camera seems like it comes in closer when I'm in combat. Yeah, so in terms of rolling away, with the indicators on the ground and stuff like that, sometimes just hearing Mimir say something, I'll just move. I don't have an intention of where I'm moving, but I'll just make sure that I evade. Because I also feel like there are some situations where I get my ass kicked very fast, like very, very fast.
It can happen. It kind of catches up on you, or it just kind of goes for you.
Like they hit you with something, and then they blitz you, and they hit you 2 more times, and you're done.
Yeah, especially like early on, you have like some like lizard creatures with big tails, where if they run at you and then they do a tail whip after, you can dodge one, but like if they hit you with the first one, you're not dodging the second one.
And I do not like the double tap of L1 to when the blue circles show up on the screen, like to counter, like that block. I don't know why I hate that mechanic.
I'm having I had the same problem in 2018, the same issues where like I really want the action to be on square and triangle, but I know it works.
I suck at blocking and parrying though in any game.
Yeah, I
like in terms of like timing it perfectly with your shield to stun
them.
The
parry's very forgiving in God of War. And I don't know if I just think it's very forgiving because I came off playing Elden Ring this year, but like the parry in God of War is very, very forgiving. But I also like I want to turn off some of the HUD elements because I feel like sometimes they stick around too much. Because I may be paying attention too much to where like Atreus and Mimir shouting directions really doesn't help me because they do indicate on the screen when someone's coming at you.
Yeah.
To where sometimes
and see, I'm the opposite. I listen to it, I don't see it.
Yeah, and I see it first, and then by the time they're like turn around, it's like, dude, I already turned around. The guy's dead. Like
yeah.
But like I'm sorry, people are gonna be upset. I don't like the writing. I don't know what happened. Where like I'd have to go back to 2018, but like I feel like this was an issue in 2018 in terms of like all the accents are kind of all over the place. But I've noticed the American accents like way more, where you just have characters just straight up talking in like an American accent. And I don't know why that bothers me this time. But I think what doesn't help is a lot of them are using modern slang and language, and it's really taken me out of the scenes. Like this isn't a spoiler, it happens in the first hour. Odin talks to you at one point, and he's using too much modern language to where it kind of ruined the scene. And then like straight up, like, again, this isn't a spoiler, but Thor calls you a dumbass in the middle of a battle. And like
the next level, or the current, I don't even know, current gen or the current time cursing, I don't feel like there was that much cursing in 2018.
Yeah, like Atreus says shit a lot, and I'm just like, it doesn't gel, it doesn't vibe well, and it's taking me
with the timeline that we believe of what's going on.
Yes, exactly, and for whatever reason,
I agree.
It's kind of taking me out of some moments. Like there's a really intense moment that like Atreus saying shit a couple times turns into like a dialogue thing afterwards, and like,
all right, I'm gonna ask a question because it's been bugging me and I haven't Googled it, and mute it, fast forward 10 seconds. It's a minor spoiler. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Am I supposed to know who the hell the squirrel is?
No, not really. No.
Because the way that like the introduction happened with that character, it felt like that they referred to him as a name I should have known.
No, but they kind of treat that with all the mythological like creatures that you're just supposed to know. So you're good there.
Okay.
But like I don't know, something with the like I think the story's good. Like the actual story of the journey Atreus and Kratos are on right now, I think is really good. It's just I think some of the dialogue just doesn't fit, and it's really taking me out of the scene, or out of some scenes when I don't like that. Like, oh, we can go over to the right later. Yes, that stuff too. Like the way they try and introduce stuff to you, like the mechanics especially.
With the side quests, like they're irritating.
And they do trigger too fast, which I think was a complaint a lot of people had of like Atreus spoils the puzzles too soon.
Every NPC.
Yes, and it's annoying, but I also hate like early on you're on some boats and you're going to like different islands. Before I even get the island on the dock, Atreus is like, we can't do the thing here. We don't have the power yet. And I'm just like, I didn't even see what the fuck is over here. And you're already telling me I can't do it. Yeah. And I guess it's just because my camera looked that direction.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with like what I call like, I mean, I call it this because of what when I was a kid, of like the Zelda mechanic of like, hey, there's a thing over there, but you don't have the ability to go over there yet, so I know I'll be coming back, and I see these chests that are hidden by something.
Which I don't mind, but like sometimes they're telling you
I don't mind
too
it
early.
Either, but I'm like, okay, that's a little bit too much. Yeah.
especially like early on, it happens, and you're like, I am not going to be. This is a 30-hour game. I am not coming back here. Like once I finish this.
And again, not a spoiler, but how do you feel about them talking about like Atreus going, "Oh, my dad just likes loot"? Have you had that happen?
No, and again, I think it just takes you out of it. There's no immersion in this God of War, and I don't really feel like that was an issue in 2018. So I don't know exactly what happened. But like, I'm not super far in a game. I'm under 10 hours, but like, right now, first 10 hours, I feel like God of War 2018 was a 10, and this is like a 9. Like if we were to grade them, and I'm hoping the story brings it back up to where I want it to be. Because again, gameplay, still fucking fun.
He moves, like they both move so smooth.
The abilities and stuff that you get for you and Atreus, really fun. And the overarching story, the journey that they're going on is enjoyable and entertaining. It's just the dialogue's taking me out of it, and then some of the way they're showing you mechanics, like you know being on the boat, and then there'd be like, if we go over here and then the camera swings over to the right, we can do this mission, but if we go over here, we can continue our main quest. And they don't say mission and main quest, but they might as well say this is the main quest.
I feel like that they're having the same problem that like a lot of games have gone through. Of the concern is they're thinking too much about the player that hasn't played 2018.
Yes, yeah. Like they want to make sure if this is your first time.
Oh, this is your first God of War, so we're going to over-explain something to you. And I would rather that is where I want it to be a dialogue tree option. Like, if I don't remember who a character is, I can dig farther into the character. But if I do remember who the character is, then I can go a different direction with the dialogue tree, which I think Horizon handled well.
Yeah.
And like the fast travel mechanic that you're using, I think they do a great job with that in terms of the conversations lasting the right amount of time, even if you're running through it. Like it ends when you get to where you're supposed to get to.
Yeah,
that stuff I think is really good.
I kind of wish they would kind of have a separate toggle. You know how there's like 6 different difficulties in this game, maybe more. And they break it down like, this is for story with a little combat, this is average or medium. And then it goes, more difficult. I wish there was a toggle of like, did you play the first game? And you click yes, and they're like, cool, we're going to cut out all this extra explanation bullshit of like, this is what mechanics are. Because mechanically, it's not that different from 2018. This almost feels like a very, very gigantic expansion in the first 10 hours.
Do you feel or think that them taking it from what we thought originally was supposed to be a trilogy down to a 2-game thing, that's affecting it?
Not in the first 10 hours. If anything, I'm just like, God, I hope this isn't 60, 70 hours, because it hasn't moved that much in the first 10 hours.
Most of the completion times I'm hearing from people are between 30 and 45.
Which to me
depending on how much they mess around with. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Like that's concerning me as I start hearing more people, but a lot of them have said they did some side stuff organically, and I'm trying to actively not do side stuff, like.
And I'm going almost completionist just because I've had some time, and that is why I'm getting more annoyed by some of these things, because when you go completionist, you do run into this redundant dialogue way more frequently, because I'm going after
the funny part is now that you and I are talking, like if I remember right, like going back to 2018, we're like, I just hope this isn't like a giant escort mission game, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And this one's kind of feeling so far like it is an escort game.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't really see a difference in terms of it does still feel like an escort game, but definitely, maybe it's because Atreus was kind of quiet kid in the first one. This one, he's very talkative, which is just making his presence even more known. To where I'm just hoping we get a break from Atreus. Like, I hope he throws a fit at one point so I can get like a couple hours with my boy Kratos or something. Just because he's really bothering me. I don't know why. And I don't know if it's just because he has like an American accent and it's bothering me because his accent doesn't fit. And I didn't notice it in the first game, and this game I am noticing it way more because there are now other characters that have different accents that don't fit. But yeah, I know it sounds like I've been shitting on this game, but like I'm still enjoying it.
Expectations were very high.
Yeah, and
like very, very high. And we're not saying it's not meeting expectations, but like you would hope that you would build and improve upon 2018. And don't get me wrong, they have improved upon 2018 in terms of quality of life and menu functions and some ease of use and quality of life stuff that I see. But there are some other things that I'm just like, interesting. Like there is a scenario where an NPC within 5 seconds of me being presented with a puzzle goes, "Here you go, I'll show you." And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. And like, I know you can tweak some things in the menu, but it doesn't quite fix the issue. Also, can I just say, like, the PS4 definitely held this game back. Because you are going through a lot of little creaks or like little cracks in the wall more. But I think the thing that bothers me the most, when you go into a building, it's like pitch black. And then once you're in the building, it's like brightly lit. And you're just like, why the fuck is it doing that? Oh, because it's loading a fucking area. And it's just really... I would rather have Kratos going through cracks in the wall than going into a room and having it be dark and then brightly lit. Unless my game's just glitched.
I also hate the restart checkpoint thing when you die. Like, of course, I want to go back where I was. But I also feel like that's a PS4 thing.
Yeah.
Like where you have to like trigger that you want to do this, because there's not really any other option on the death screen.
Yeah. You know what's funny though too? Like now that I was said it out loud, they did also add where you guys like squat and go through tunnels to hide loading screens. And that's just hilarious to me.
That's what I was talking about. But there's dialogue trees in there at least.
Yeah. There's at least some conversation happening in there. But even then I'm just like, man, I wish this was just a PS5 game.
My coworker has played and completed it on his PS4, and he said that he thought that thing was going to lift his house up.
Yeah, when you buy PS5, do you get the PS4 version? Because I might just load it on my PS4.
I think you do.
Okay. I might have to load it on my PS4. I just want to hear that thing become a jet engine one more time. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm enjoying this game, so please, no one say like I'm hating on God of War. I'm not. I'm just. I don't know.
I hate to say, like, I feel like right now it's not. There's certain parts of it, and it could be my, like the level that I just put it right in the mid level or whatever, like the default one that was on. But I feel like it might not be. The story might not be going fast enough for my attention span currently.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely someone who is going for side stuff. I know it sounds dumb to say, but I feel like the story isn't moving fast enough for me. And doing the side stuff, I'm not really getting much extra out of doing the side stuff. But I do like when I
would hope some really cool armor or something comes from it, but I'm not hearing about that either.
Well,
I'm not, like
I don't even like
and going all the way back to the first Horizon, they're like, oh, you want to get these 5 things because you get this. Like even when I was streaming that, everybody said, hey, make sure you get this thing, because it's hard to double back and get it. So get it now. And I'm not even hearing about some, on Twitter or anything like that, like some cool side quest of like the top 3 must do side quest in Ragnarok to, I'm not seeing that
And
yet.
You know what I think bums me out is like, because I played Elden Ring this year and I enjoyed Elden Ring, the armor stuff, the crafting does nothing for me in Ragnarok. Like it just feels.
I just do the auto. I've just been doing the auto. Equip.
Yeah, and it sucks though because like, I think Kratos is just already a badass design, so throwing armor on him kind of doesn't do anything for me either. Because I'm just like, I don't really care.
But
what he looks like.
Do you see what I'm talking about the growth? Like he's like compared to 2018, like there's not a growth. It's just there. Like there's not a huge like a huge combat arc.
Yeah.
Of where you were learning and understanding the Leviathan axe. Once you learned and understood the Leviathan axe, you got your blades back, and then you were learning and understanding the blades, and then it was like learning to juggle both of them, and now you just have it.
Yeah, which I'm hoping maybe in the later half of the game, because technically if we go off the 30-40 hours, I'm 1/3 the way through the game, so hopefully there's something in that second half, because you don't get the Blades of Chaos till like the last like 6 hours.
60, 70, 75% through the game or at the earliest.
So I'm hoping there's something like that in the game that will turn me around, but again, these are just my impressions of the first third of the game, and we will beat it eventually sometime this month and do a full spoiler cast, but yeah, it's just making me kind of want to go back to Elden Ring.
I hope the whole journey feels worth
yes,
it.
that's what I
need.
Now,
because right now I'm kind of like, do I want to keep? Like, I don't have this desire, and it could just be my mental state, but I don't have this tangible desire of, like we'll take Sunday as an example. I watched the Lions play. I watched a little bit more of like NFL Red Zone and inadvertently like passed out on the couch for like an hour and a half. And my wife's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go." We were outside for a little bit. She's like, "I'm gonna, soak in the tub for like an hour, and then when I come out, like play let's play some God of War so we can get a little farther." I'm like, "Okay, cool. Sounds like a plan." Neither one of us got up off the couch. She never went and did the bathtub thing, so that which never kind of was like, I just didn't have any desire. Like there was nothing compelling right now that I'm like, I want to play and I want to keep going.
Yeah, and that's something I've been having a problem with, where I'm just like, I'll play in hour bursts. When I just played a Plague Tale like a couple weeks ago, I told you I played that in like 2-3 days, like 6 hour shifts basically.
I feel like when I get to the door again to travel somewhere else, I'm like, all right, this is a good time to stop. Versus I want to be like, oh, I want to know what's next. Like where am I going? Who am I seeing? What's gonna happen? Yeah. Like, and I don't have that feeling.
I get on a cliff or a island and I look around. I'm like, I could probably save here, and then I just switch to something else. And I'm kind of done with Overwatch, so I'm just all I have to play right now is God of War, and I'm still like, I'll beat it over time.
So I just hope something happens soon. I mean, I've had I had the same thing happen with me with Horizon 1 when I stopped the first time, and I stopped like an hour and a half to where the story was like super engaging and hooked me. I just haven't seen that trigger point yet. In Ragnarok.
I would love next week for me and Dave to be like, holy shit, did you get to this point in God of War? And so far in the first third of the game, we haven't had that moment yet.
Yeah.
But that's it for me for playing and watching.
Okay. All right, so we'll do some rapid fire questions, and it'll be a little bit of a shorter show. Not too much shorter, actually. We're already at an hour. All right, so you can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. So Jacob Tyler Blaker says, MJC and Dave recommend their favorite games and games accessories for people to buy for the holidays. Maybe include computer accessories also. I mean, games for this, like, I guess games for this year that I would say that you should purchase personally. Nobody Saves the World, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, and TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Those are three that I would say would be must plays this year.
Target is selling the Cowabunga collection for $20 on Friday. Definitely pick that up for $20.
That's different than Shredder's Revenge. That's like a whole that's like 13 arcade style Ninja Turtle games.
Yeah, which like at $40-$50 what it originally was, I was like, on the fence, but at $20, like that's a pretty good fucking deal. Especially I think the Switch one is also $20, which the Switch one always costs a little bit more, so it seems like that's a good thing to go for.
Did I see stuff about Elden Ring being around
I was going to say,
$35 to $40?
Elden Ring at most places is going to be $35, and I really think like it is a game worth playing, even if you're not into Souls games, because of its open world. Just as a game, like if you don't want to engage in combat, just using Elden Ring as an exploration game is really worthwhile. Plague Tale, definitely be worth picking up. The PSN sale is like pretty ridiculous, and Xbox has a really good sale as well. My game of the year last year, Inscription, I believe might be on sale. I know it's on sale on Steam on PC. Definitely think that's worth grabbing. It's only available digitally, though I think physical copies are coming out sometime in December.
I think I've seen Cult of the Lamb this week for like 20.
Yeah,
and that's kind of on my short list.
Yeah, it might be a game I want to play before the end of the year. So there's a bunch of stuff. I highly recommend. I only buy controllers during the holiday sales. Especially now that these controllers are $75, $80, I think the DualSense controllers are like $50. Every color is $50 right now. And then on the Xbox, I think the controllers are like $40 because they haven't really upgraded their controllers in like 2 generations. But there's like some really cool Xbox colors and PlayStation colors you get on a deal. So I think now is the only time to add to your controller collection, because I can never justify spending $80 on a controller.
And the DualSense, the Sony DualSense charging dock I've seen for like $20.
Yeah, I might be.
That's Yeah, I'm looking at that too. That's about $8 to $10 off.
Yeah.
But,
for the official PlayStation one, that's a pretty good deal. The Power A has a decent one that I think is on sale for like $15-$20. So if you want to save a couple extra dollars.
But I think it's like $21 for the PlayStation 1. So like I personally would just spend the extra $5 to $6
exactly,
if it's
because like I wasn't looking at the official PlayStation 1 until I saw it was on sale, and I'm just like, oh, you know what, I might as well get that. So yeah, those would probably be our recommendations for stuff to pick up.
I mean, I've had a couple people ask about like headphones and peripherals. I don't have enough experience with my gaming PC to really talk about that. I've been fortunate that Rocat has sent me a bunch of stuff, including like what I have on my ears, which is a wireless headset that's really nice. It's really light. This one is... That's not it. I don't have the box here, so I'll send out some pictures and stuff on Facebook of it. The number one headset that I currently would recommend is the Turtle Beach Gen 700s Max. It's dual channel. The Generation 2 700 Max is it, and then somebody just tweeted at me, Gray Ghost, that he got it like $60 off on sale, which is a great price. I think it takes it down to like $130 or $140. The coolest thing about that is the dual channel, and it works on all three consoles. Yeah. You just move the USB dongle from the PlayStation to the Switch, and I think it connects Bluetooth to the Xbox. And then, like I know I've said it 3 times now, but the dual channel of you can connect it to your phone or you can connect it to your PC. So if you're somebody that is trying to do any kind of cross-platform playing, you can connect. You could hear the game on your PS5, connect to your phone for Discord, and do voice chat that way. I've done that personally, and it works.
The app is a little finicky, but once you get it going, like it's really good.
Yeah, so if you really just want to look for that dual channel, the different USB thing, it's also nice. Like if you're trying to, like let's say you're just like trophy hunting and you want to like pull a YouTube video up on your tablet or your phone, and it doesn't disturb the person sitting next to you of like where you have to take the headphones off. It just plays through your headphones while you're playing the game, and it's nice and it works, and they're very comfortable, and the battery lasts like forever, and you can charge it quickly. So that would be. Yeah, that would be the highest recommendation that I have. And if you're an Xbox player, I really like the Recon controller that I've been talking about. If you're somebody that doesn't really want to spend a lot of money on a pair of headphones, like you can buy this controller. It's like $60, and it's a wired controller. But you can plug any set of headphones, earbuds, Apple earbuds, Android stuff, any 3.5 millimeter headphones into them, and you can get a lot of the virtual surround and noise canceling stuff through the not necessarily noise canceling, but
it simulates a lot
sound
of
through
that
the controller. Yeah. So
controller feels kind of okay, but if you're just looking for like a cheaper controller, it's fine enough.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right, Stefan Wren, what is your favorite Call of Duty since the original Call of Duty 4, and why? I can't really speak to this because I haven't played a ton of Call of Duty in terms of like the campaign, and I'll get the name wrong, but the campaign that I had the most fun with was the one in space.
Advanced Warfare?
Advanced Warfare? That sounds about right, yeah.
For me, well, it's going to be Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, because that's the OG one. That's the most fun I had multiplayer. That was like the multiplayer game in high school. To play, so it's probably going to be that one. Close second would be Treyarch's first go at it, which is World at War. That's the one that introduced zombies, and I think that was the last time I enjoyed zombies. So probably World at War, just for I really did love like the maps in it, and then I also enjoyed zombies. That was short-lived though, because as zombies kept going, I got less interested in that mode. But it was pretty cool at the time when it was introduced, because it was kind of wild, the idea that a Call of Duty game would just have like a random zombie mode in it. Because I'm pretty sure that was World at War. But yeah.
All right, Dan Santos sends a question in, and apparently he lived in a social media coma for the last 3 years and didn't know that we were doing this.
Yeah, there's people that used to listen to the last show that still have no idea that we transitioned over.
So welcome to the current world, Dan. Appreciate it. What are your thoughts on the current portable gaming environment, and would a new PlayStation Portable system make sense? Also, does PSVR 2 have enough enticing games to justify that cost? So we talked about PSVR 2 last week.
Yes.
And I think Michael and I are both on the same plane of not yet.
Not yet. Potential hardware-wise is there, but software is not there yet.
And my thoughts on portable gaming, I only use my Switch if I'm in a car or traveling somewhere. If I'm at home, I'm playing it in a docked mode on the TV. It's very, very, very rare that I play it portable. I did not play my Vita enough. There were some great games on there, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't something that was like continuously going with me. So I'm kind of at the camp of I don't want to see a new portable. I don't want to see any kind of hybrid thing. I just want them to focus on, like we've been talking about with this gen. I want you to I want all these games to hit 1080p 60 all the time.
Yeah. I almost knocked my microphone down. Yeah, no, so I really think the portable market is in a really good spot right now. I think the Switch, despite its hardware being very limiting, is a damn near perfect system in terms of the concept of being able to play a game portably, throw it on a dock, play it on a TV. I think it's just Nintendo. I don't want to say being lazy or cheap, but it's just Nintendo doesn't care about hitting. It's not even cutting edge anymore, but they don't care about hitting what other standards people have. But I think Nintendo also backed themselves into a corner where if the next system isn't portable and dockable, people are going to be like, what the fuck? Anything that isn't that is going to feel like a step backwards. So I'm really hoping that we just get a Switch 2 that's more powerful, even though Nintendo has never had a history of wanting to do the same thing twice since
the closest we got to the same thing twice was the debacle that was the Wii to the Wii U.
Yeah, and then the Nintendo to the SNES, but that was successful. But for the most part, they tend to do something different each time, whether it's the form factor, the controller, or dual screens, something.
But I think they're afraid to do a small upgrade like that, because like you talked about the Nintendo to the Super Nintendo, at least that had a cosmetic visual difference. Nintendo games went in the front, Super Nintendo games went in the top. The cartridges were completely different. People left the Wii U reveal confused.
Yeah. And
I think if they try to do a Switch Pro, I think they'd be better off doing a Switch Pro than trying to call it Switch something, because I think it would just confuse the consumer. The consumer is much more open to smaller upgrades now than they were 10 years ago when the Wii U was out. But
I think they
I don't know how you balance that. All the Switch games have to work on the new Switch.
Yeah, and there was already a report being we don't really care about backwards compatibility, and it's just dude, don't tell me that. Disney,
right.
Especially
don't make the Switch 2 games 2.5 millimeters thick and the Switch 1 games 1 millimeter thick, and they won't fit.
Yeah. Don't do weird memory card bullshit. The PSP memory card to the Vita memory card. Don't do that. I think they backed themselves into a corner to where, in terms of selling consoles, a Pro will not sell as well because people will be like, well, we got the Switch at home. We do not need the Pro. And then people in our, our listeners and stuff like that would probably jump at a Pro, but they'd still be like, well, I'm going to hold off on the Pro because the next thing's probably coming out soon. Because that's just how this works now.
Well, it's super scary though, because Breath of the Wild 2, I can't think of the name right now that it really is. Everybody thought that was going to be on the Pro or the Switch 2, and it's not. Yeah, because it's dated. So I don't know.
Again, they backed themselves into a corner, and then when it comes to a new PlayStation Portable, I don't think PlayStation can afford to mess around with trying to.
A third accessory?
Yeah, a third accessory or a new console. They even if we take out chip shortages and all that stuff out of the equation, I just don't know if as a company they can handle trying to support 3 platforms. Because we're talking PS5, PSVR, its own platform. It's an accessory, but it's its own platform. Mm-hmm. And then being here's PlayStation Portable 3 or Vita 2. I just don't.
Along with whatever they're trying to do with their live service division and their mobile division.
Yeah, and then also the idea of going back to a time where like, hey, the game's out on Vita and PS3, but the Vita one's significantly worse because it's a smaller screen and it's a weaker system.
It's just too hard.
Yeah. So. At this point, and Nintendo doesn't have to worry about that too much because it's like it's running on the same machine, as opposed to having to do two different ecosystems.
Well, and Nintendo's core foundation is not on innovation and realism looking. It's on fun platforming.
Yeah. They innovate in mechanics, not in fidelity.
Graphics. Yeah, fidelity, yeah. All right, Dave Walters writes, do you guys have or planning to have a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 clan or squad? I didn't know that was a thing.
You would have to ask is Stefan our Call of Duty person?
Well, no, Stefan's not.
Okay.
So he just recently picked up some multiplayer stuff with a lot of the UK guys. I think a lot of the UK guys that I've been playing some Call of Duty with recently, I think they kind of had their own thing. I don't know if they've made a clan or a squad or anything yet. Dave, if you're on enough and you want to make one, feel free and send me an invite. Or if anybody's listening to this that probably has more time off this weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, than I do, if you want to create one, maybe message me, and depending on who does or doesn't message me, I'll tell you like, hey, somebody's already doing it or somebody's not doing it, go ahead. So I'm fine with that. And
also join our Discord. Well, maybe we can retire our Rainbow Six or Division 2 room and change that to a Call of Duty room.
That's fine. Wyatt's watching the stream. He can just make a quick adjustment. Yeah. That's what he's around for as my Discord admin.
Because I would love, when we're on Discord and we see people having conversations, but if people are in the voice chat just chilling, like Dave's done this before. He's been like, I'm going to watch the draft and I'm just going to be in a random voice channel. People pop in and out. So definitely use our Discord. Everyone's pretty cool there. I mean, we can make a separate channel for that, and we can post something in there if there's a link to it, or how you link it with your Activision ID or anything like that. We can look into that. But yeah, like definitely check out the Discord link. We can have a conversation in there about what we're gonna do. If you make it and you just want to call it DDG, that's fine if that's available. If not, we can have a conversation. I'm pretty good about responding if depending on the multiple ways that you guys have to reach me. So. And then our last question of the night, Fumbles. What do you think of the Survivor Series card so far? The only thing that I know about wrestling is that the Detroit area is on the short list for SummerSlam. That makes sense. It's an indoor stadium, right?
It would, depending on where they put it. Sure, if they put it at Ford Field.
Yeah. They like doing stadium shows for SummerSlam, so I would assume it would have to be at one of those stadiums. So that makes sense. You gonna go?
Probably not. Not unless for some reason Owen picks up this massive fascination for wrestling in the next 6 months. Do not send him anything.
I would have access to be like, hey Owen, here's some. I'm gonna get on his Roblox server and be like, hey, here's my WWE account credentials. Survivor Series. I'm glad they switched Survivor Series to include War Games, so it's not just the traditional Survivor Series match. Though I wouldn't have minded if there was at least one traditional match on the card. But yeah, Dave right now is just like, I have no idea what's going on. I think the Bloodline storyline.
I was actually looking to see how fast Wyatt was in the Discord.
The Bloodline storyline I think is like the best thing going on in wrestling right now.
There's a Call of Duty game channel.
There we go. I just saw it pop. So, like, I do, like, love the Bloodline being included in the War Games match. I don't know if I like them. There being two cage match War Games matches. I think that's kind of redundant, and it puts, like, the second match.
Yeah, excessive cage matching is just not my thing. Like, you can't have multiple cages.
No,
like, just one cage.
I know you're joking, but, like... It's kind of dumb when you have a match that opens as a cage match and a match ends with a cage match. It just kind of puts a lot of pressure on like that second match to be like, well, we saw everything they did earlier. Yeah. So I really think they should probably have just done one.
It's like the circus. You can only have one lion jump through one flame.
Yeah, eventually you're just like, hey, I've seen that before. I am going to the AEW show tomorrow. We decided to pick up tickets super last second because I forgot they were doing a show the day before Thanksgiving, and I was just like, you know what, fuck it, let's just go to the show.
I guess that's a huge advantage to you not driving in Chicago, because I would not want to be out about Chicago on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh god, yeah, I know. Like, it's just
in a car at least.
Yeah, so we're gonna go to there. I'm hoping there's no rioting, but there could be. But that's
oh boy.
Fumbles would know what I'm talking about. But like AEW is coming into a very hostile city. Because so Dave, CM Punk, he's like Chicago's favorite wrestler. He during a press conference like 3 months ago threw the entire company under the bus, and this led to
WWE,
AEW.
AEW,
and this basically led to 3 of the most popular AEW wrestlers. They're not as popular as CM Punk, but they're really popular. They stormed his locker room, and this isn't like a wrestling story thing. They stormed his locker room. There was a fist fight behind the scenes. Someone apparently got bit by another human being, and they ended up firing CM Punk and suspending those 3 wrestlers. Those 3 wrestlers returned on Saturday and got a hero's welcome from the crowd.
But now they're coming to Chicago,
which is CM Punk's
CM Punk
territory.
is home.
Yeah.
After somebody Holyfielded somebody.
Yes, and he was fired. Like, they haven't made it official, but as far as like all the sources say, he has been fired. So AEW's coming into Chicago after firing like the hometown hero. So it could get really fucking weird. And this is going to be Sarah's brother's first wrestling show.
You're saying if AEW starts trending on Twitter tomorrow night, like it's probably not good.
It's probably not good. Chicago is a really rough town. Like, it's a very passionate wrestling town, and I don't know if I've seen a situation like this. There's a chance that the AEW fans are going to be like siding with AEW, but I highly doubt that. So that's part of the reason why I was interested in going, because I'm just like, if this shit's going to go down, I kind of want to be there. So yeah,
I'm gonna get some random text picture from Michael at like 9:30 at night. Like, dude,
it's just me holding a championship belt. Like, yo, dude, look what I won. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
So I appreciate all the questions.
I did save some for next week because we did get a few more.
We'll have some more for next week. I'm sure next week's news will be light too, coming out of Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes,
all right, so again, we appreciate you guys sending the questions. You can send those using hashtag AskDigitalDays. For those of you that have been hanging out in the Twitch chat, thank you. Dealing with a little bit of technical difficulties we've had that the people listening to this don't have a clue what we're talking about, because my wife does a great job of fixing
They might have a little bit of a clue because we made Angela's editing life hell this week. Not us, Discord did. But
yeah, so I hope everyone that celebrates it has a great Thanksgiving, whether you're spending it with family or with friends. If you're listening to this while you're preparing food, or using it to stay away from your family, like, I understand that aspect of it as well. If you maybe if you think about it, send us whatever you're doing on Thanksgiving. Send it to us on Twitter, post it in the Facebook group, whether it's your table or your Friendsgiving or your Thanksgiving, or you just sitting on the couch watching TV. Whatever it is that you're doing on Thanksgiving, like, let us know. And then your Black Friday stuff, if you get some cool stuff, send us some pictures, post it in Discord.
Yeah, put it in the
Facebook, Twitter.
We have a Discord channel just to show your collection stuff, so throw it in there.
Yeah, so if you find some great deals, like Palmer's been posting a couple things in there, like he always does, as a little drug dealer for video game deals.
He still hasn't hit those links. He was going to put some stuff up on eBay, and I was supposed to get first dibs, but he never did that.
Yeah, I know. I've seen some other pictures, man. He keeps saying that stuff's in boxes.
And he keeps adding to the collection, too.
He won't hear this until like December 10th.
Yeah.
So, but yes, again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and I hope everyone has a safe weekend, as well as. I hope you get what you need for Black Friday, and thank you for being part of our community. We love and appreciate every one of you that listens, downloads, shares, talks in Twitch chat, helps us with Discord, all of it. So thank you guys. We're thankful for all of you. And you can follow us on Twitter at Digital Days Pod. At Digital Days Pod. You can follow Michael at the First MJC. You can follow myself at Good Dave Hunt. Facebook group, Discord server, all that stuff is linked in the show notes. And I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.